Rest when you're tired, but move your fat ass.
Every 10 minutes of interactive screen time in bed steals 9 minutes of total.
Buy your time back and buy your breath and buy your freedom back.
No gadgets, no pills, just
slow the fuck down and do the thing that you're doing when you're doing it.
Not doing this, you pay a deep sleep tax.
It's very easy to wake up one day and be 10 years older and say, what happened?
Today we have the monk versus the machine. Can nature beat nootropics? We have Dr. Michael Smith, high-performance biohacker, founder of performancedoctor.com, lover of data, devices, and all things cutting edge. We also here have Dr. Pedram Shojai, the urban monk, urban medicine OG, breathwork master, and unapologetic advocate for simplicity and spirit. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Can I get a little intro from both of you?
My name is Dr. Mike Smith. I am a naturopathic physician, board certified in biofeedback. I help entrepreneurs and athletes optimize their health and performance. And I do that through using the foundation of nervous system regulation and optimizing sleep and breath work. And then on top of that, the foundations of health. So then really optimizing their movement and recovery, their hydration, of course, nutrition, and then testing everything that we can, really assessing their biology very comprehensively. And then the final piece is the mental side. So a lot of CBT and cognitive reframing, mindset, attitude. So that's the approach that I take.
Very cool.
Pedram?
Yeah. Dr. Pedram Shojai was a monk for many years, became an abbot of a Kung Fu Taoist lineage, doctor of Oriental medicine, had multiple multi-specialty clinics before that was cool, and started really asking big questions about what some of this Taoist yoga and Qigong and some of the interesting stuff I learned in the Himalayas was doing. So hired a neuroscience team, opened them a brain lab and said, get to work and tell me what you find. Became an author, best-selling author of 8 books now, New York Times bestseller, and film producer, and just been around the block in this functional medicine space. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, so I've got a lot of opinions.
Great. I can't wait to dive deep into them. So basically, we're here to really debate or maybe even combine techniques, right? So Pedram, you're an advocate of ancient, I would say, theories, technologies, things like that. Is that just a bunch of fluff, or is it really something we can hang our hat onto?
I mean, so you think hundreds of millions, at the very least, probably billions of people over 4, 5, arguably 10,000 years of civilization, really pragmatic people, particularly in Asia, who would stop doing something if it didn't work, who continue to do these things. And so the entire "is it fluff" thing was a propaganda hit that came from Rockefeller's oil-driven pharma sponsorship way back. And so even that dialogue comes from a propaganda move to push out other types of medicine and wellness and sell people drugs and put us in the mess that we're in. So absolutely not. It's not fluff. Now, there's plenty of fluff around. So you got to be able to separate the baby from the bathwater, and that takes discernment. That's a very different conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd love to get into that if you want to, just so that we can, like you said, separate the forest from the trees.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I come from a 3,500-year-old kung fu lineage that has had transmission of very particular exercises done a very particular way, handed down from generation to generation. It's been a lot of work, it's been a lot of training, it's been a lot of dedication. So when someone asks me if I do new age stuff, I vomited my mouth a little bit, because that is not new age, right? That's old school. I've been doing this the same way people have been doing this for thousands of years, and it has withstood the test of time. Now, anybody with a camera phone and an internet account could be an influencer and make up a bunch of crap on their own and say this works or do this for your health. And we live in a very untethered time that doesn't come from any history, lineage, data driven anything. And so it's also a very dangerous time to take bad advice from people that don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I understand that, you know, these techniques are tried and true, but don't you think in modern times we've been able to develop techniques or technology that are better than that?
No, no. As a matter of fact, we haven't, and we could get into the why of that. But I think we've made tremendous improvements in technology. I think there's a lot to be said for the technology that we have. But I think that the central piece to all of this is a piece that the research is barely starting to scratch right now, which is the understanding of our awareness and our consciousness, and how folding our attention back activates the anterior cingulate cortex and turns on parts of us, and also turns on gene expression and of kappa B, all sorts of really powerful epigenetic switches that come from how I use my mind. And then that downstream becomes a chemistry lab for the types of neurotransmitters that are secreting through my system, and who I am and how I produce this thing in life. And so I think, could we get there? Sure. I'm not a Luddite. I think technology is making leaps and bounds. Have we gotten there? We have some interesting inklings of it. I like trauma-assisted therapy. I like ketamine-assisted therapy. I like psychedelic-assisted therapy. I studied neurofeedback with Barry Sturman. Like, I've been around that block, and I don't poo-poo the tech, but I think that there is something very powerful that it's very easy to jump over, and say, oh no, we don't need that anymore. And it's like, when grandpa dies, a library burns down. There's a lot there that I think is not to be swept away.
Is there anything that we can like discern or get from Apple Watches, rings, these types of like, you know, CGMs, this type of like technology?
Yeah, actually, Jeff Bland talked me into wearing my Aura ring. Why? Because we don't know what we don't know. And maybe 2 years from now, when we look at my blood draws and my salivary cortisol and correlate that with my HRV and something else that we can glean from the data of my Aura ring, we could learn something very powerful. And so for me, that is a low hurdle, is wearing something that is relatively innocuous, low EMF, that's grabbing data that I could maybe use in the future. 100%. Now, do I need the Aura ring to tell me if I had a good night's sleep last night? No, I know when I wake up, right? Now, will it help me optimize my performance and look at, how my meals, or, alcohol, great example. I don't think anyone with an Aura ring hasn't already learned that drinking alcohol doesn't work for your sleep, right? And so there are really good feedback loops that they do give us. And so, no, I have an Aura ring. I wear it.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad you dove deep into that, because I think it shows that you're open to good technology, not just against all technology. Michael, are you just a walking billboard for Amazon supplements and EMF meters?
Definitely not.
I'm glad you guys know me, so you don't get insulted by this.
I really like Dr. Pedram's approach, but I guess I combine kind of the ancient wisdom and the clinical evidence that we have. Now, there's really terrible research, right, and evidence, and then there's really good. And so you have to be discerning of what's good and what's bad. And so you have to know how to read that research, and especially the methods. Most people, they look at the abstract and the intro, and they look at the discussion. And those are the two parts of research where they're trying to sell you basically on their research, on their thing. And so you really have to dig into the methods and make sure that it is good evidence. But I like combining both would be the short answer.
So, that leads me back to this. Like, do we need a $500 ring with a subscription to tell us we're tired? Which is better, intuition or data? Or are you both just guessing in these processes?
Yeah, I think you got to combine the subjective with the objective, right? And so that's what Doc was just saying is like you're measuring something. You're not letting it tell you exactly what to do, but you are allowing it to feed back insights to help you optimize further. And so that's how I like to use that.
Can I venture an opinion on that?
Sure.
I agree with everything Doc just said. I do have one caveat to that, which is if that $500 is going to make you lose sleep at night because you don't have that kind of money to throw around, don't get the dumb ring. And I think that's where a lot of people get browbeaten by influencers to like go stretch beyond their financial means. And I mean, I don't know about you, but every patient that has come in with stress in my clinical practice in the last 30 years, money is high on that list. And so if money is stressing you out, stop spending it on gadgets and buy your time back and buy your breath and buy your freedom back.
Yeah. And just to add to that too, if the data is also going to cause more stress, right? Like if you're an obsessive perfectionist and you look at the data and you go, fuck, I didn't get this HRV last night, or I didn't get that much deep sleep and I wanted to do this, wanted to do that, then it's causing more distress, right? It's causing more strain on your nervous system. And that's the exact opposite thing of what we want. We just want to observe, collect data, allow those insights to guide decision making.
I want to move the next segment over to, connecting with the earth and red light and stuff like that. And, I mean, we have a monk talking about barefoot, and then we have Michael talking about red light and PMF mats. Is there a world for both, or are one of them complete crap?
It's a great question. And basically all the technology that we have basically has taken the things from the outside and put them into a gadget and potentized it, essentially, right? So they brought the good stuff and they put it into a technology, and then we only have to, spend 10, 30 minutes using the technology as opposed to being outside, right? Doesn't mean that those things outside, sunlight, EMF, doesn't mean that those things aren't potent and don't work, because they do, obviously. It's just that in our modern society, people are busy and not everyone can make the time for those things. And so that's why we have the gadgets that we have. That's why we have the technology that we have. It's just taken the outside, brought it inside, potentized it so that we can spend less time on it.
Can I interject here? So 2 questions. Does the tech actually really work? And should we be making that time to go out and do those things?
100%. Yeah, we should absolutely be making that time, right? But it's not, depending on the person, not always feasible. We have responsibilities and obligations, demands. And so the short answer is yes, but it's just not always possible. The other question was, are those technologies doing what they say that they're doing? And probably 90% of them are not, and a smaller percentage of them are. And so there's good technology and devices, and then there's really poor technology and devices. And so again, you you have to be discerning. You have to know what it is that you're looking for, because to the average person, they're not digging in that deep, and they don't know what they're looking for, and so it makes the landscape for the consumer very confusing.
Pedram, you want to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, placebo is great medicine, but it shouldn't cost 12 grand. And so I think that there's a tendency in the industry. I mean, look, it's everyone's got to make a living. We all went to school. Med school wasn't cheap, right? We all got mouths to feed. And so the market driven needs of selling people gadgets, I think, has been usurped by unscrupulous marketers who are hawking products that don't do what they say they're going to do. 100% agree. There are some good technologies, but I want to contextualize this a little bit and say it used to be the outside was for the peasant class, and if you had to work outside, then you weren't rich. Now outside is reserved for rich guys who can afford to take time out and walk out in the sun, and everyone else is under some grow light and a hamster wheel, right?
Yeah.
And so society, that's a big issue with society and how we have been subjected to being in nasty inside environments where the air quality isn't as good, the lights aren't full spectrum, you're subjected to all sorts of different issues around being an indoor creature that evolved outside. But case in point, I have an infrared sauna, I have PEMF mats, I got all the gadgets, because when I'm inside, I want to offset the deleterious effects of sitting at a desk or sitting around all this stuff. I'll take phone calls in my sauna, and so all of that. But I also have a policy where I hate Zoom, thanks to the pandemic. I don't want to be in front of Zoom as often as I can. I walk away and I tell people, let's do this on a phone call, and I'm going to go step outside, and I recommend you do the same. And so I take all my phone calls pacing outside. Now that's a let them eat cake kind of thing to say, though, because I can do that. So I don't want to judge someone who can't leave the office or get fired. So if that person gets a PEMF mat sitting under their desk and it helps run their energy and ground them and do all the things that they need to maintain homeostasis, I'm all about it, right? We live in weird times and we can't all be out in the jungle singing Kumbaya. I get it.
Yeah.
I think what's important is that, you make the time more than anything else, because I've gotten to a point where I'm almost fed up with the tech and managing all, these other things. I'm in the sauna and I'm stacking sauna with maybe stretching or meditation or breath work or things like that. So I think that's some good advice from both of you. Now mindfulness, meditation, breath work. Is a lot of this just like escapism? Or can we really, discuss the benefits and how it actually functions?
I could go first.
Go for it. Yeah.
You start looking at all the research pointing to what this stuff does and how the multiple layers of perception, because we're all familiar with exteroception, your smell, your touch, but what about interoception, the subtle cues between your vagus nerve and your vagal tone, your breath, your heart rate, all the things that are happening inside communications. You have your proprioception, you have your neuroception, your safety signaling, your equilibrioception. There's all sorts of arrays of information that we process, in particular in the anterior cingulate cortex. And our awareness of these things allows the system to come on and become more robust. And it also has really interesting expression of genes saying, hey, we're okay. And fast forward into the world we live in, where TikTok and the attention economy have taken a lot of our attention away from basic signals saying, hey, I'm tired. Hey, I'm hungry. Hey, that food made me unwell. And we have tuned out to a degree where we are so lacking in awareness that then obviously I'm going to take an Advil every time I feel this way because it makes the pain go away. And so we are so far downstream in a whack-a-mole ideology around medicine, and it's a remedial strategy versus swimming upstream, finding the root cause. Why do I feel this way? Why am I tired? Why is my energy low? And so to me, says the monk, I think the central missing ingredient is actually awareness. Because when I run a bunch of labs on a patient and say, okay, we found what's wrong with you, X, Y, and Z. Here's what you got to do. Here's your diet. Here's your supplements. You need to avoid, these 3 foods. And they go completely AWOL, or they're, AMA. And I'm like, well, we just went over this. And I start to examine why they are non-compliant with the answers we helped find with their money and my time. And you know what I mean? Like, we spent a lot of resources helping get to this answer. It's usually a lack of attention and awareness. Their attention is so damn splintered that they can't focus in on the thing they came for me to help them with. And so that has really kind of I've come full circle. I went from monk to doctor to monk again, saying I need to corral their attention back on their priorities and the decisions that we need to make together. Because at the end of the day, I can't live your life for you. And we have to build agency in these individuals. And agency is the bedfellow of attention and awareness. You can't have one without the other. You can't be unfocused in life and make decisions in a meaningful way. So I'll stop there, and we could go back and forth a bit.
Yeah. And so I would say when it comes to our health, there's the things that we can control and the things that we can't. And so for most of the people that I see, they're focused on the what of their day, right? They have very busy schedules. It's meetings and tasks, activity. And, so they're going from one thing to the next. And they're really focused on that what of their day. And there's not a lot of attention given to the how, meaning how they're being as they're moving through this task to this task, or this meeting to this meeting, or this phone call to that phone call, right? And so that's that piece that I am trying to get them to focus on, right? The things that they can control, meaning their breath, their posture, how they're carrying themselves, okay? Their facial expressions, their tonality of their voice, the language that they're using, which is very powerful, their mindset, their attitude, right? These are the things that we can control, and we can practice a breath, right? We can practice a posture. We can practice facial expressions. We can practice all those other things that I just said, right? And so if we're practicing how we're being, we can conserve our energy, number one, right? And show up the way that we want to. But practicing that how, that's the major piece. Absolutely.
If I could, there's also this piece to, I think, the trivialization of meditation and mindfulness that I think needs to be spoken to. Is it's basically been relegated to a Xanax and be like, oh, well, you're stressed out, go do yoga. You're stressed out, you should meditate a little bit. But that's not what that was built for. To what
Yep.
Doc was saying here is the time on the cushion, to me, is allowing you to create a relationship with that space and access that space within your own mind, your own consciousness, your own neurochemistry, to kind of burn in the neurons, to develop familiarity with that space, so that then when you are facing am I going to yell at my kid in front of these people moment, if you're facing the should I have a bite of the cheesecake moment, and all these other areas where you have an opportunity, a very, very, very brief moment of an opportunity to exercise awareness and self-control, you've tethered a little bit to that real estate inside, so that you can just kind of take a moment for a breath, a self-aware breath, and say, you know what, I actually don't need that cheesecake. It looks delicious. Thank you. Enjoy. And that right there is where I find many of my folks faltering, right? Is they can't, it's easy to say I meditated today. It's very hard to carry that through your day. And so for me, it's not an icon you double click on. It's more of something that goes into your operating system. And that's something that neurofeedback and biohacking and meditation, all these things try to entrain, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I say this to my patients all the time, that the breath work, the exercise, right, the nutrition, like these are all tools. They're just tools. The practice of how you're being, that is proactive versus reactive, which is how most people tend to be, right, in their daily life, is reactive to the different things that come up. And so yes, being very clear that breath work and anything else are just tools to help keep us mindful of how we're being as we're moving through the world.
Can you give an example of how to be proactive versus reactive?
Millions. I
Yeah.
mean, the basic one is, your food decisions start at the grocery store. So in a very real terms, application is, don't put that shit in your cart, right? And then you're being proactive, because in your weak moment, when you're tired and hungry and in between calls or whatever you're doing, you're not reaching for the crap choice because you hacked your environment in that way, right? Proactive is saying, honey, we have 90 minutes at this place, and we will, in 90 minutes we're going to leave, because I know that if within 2 hours I'm going to fight with the in-laws, right? And so understanding the time and space that you're getting into, and setting the table for something to work to your favor, not create drama, not make bad life decisions, not make bad food decisions, all of it.
I love those. I love those. Michael, can you give us a couple?
Yeah. One thing I think that gets missed is being purposeful about recovery, right? A lot of people's day just kind of happens to them, right? Without them really being in control or being in the driver's seat. And so exercise would be a good example, right? Having your week planned out or day planned out, so that way you're not doing too much, right? You're not pushing yourself too much, and you have enough time to restore the physical body before you enter into the next exercise or the next movement phase that you're going to do. So that was the first example that came to mind.
Awesome. I really like that segment. I got a lot from it. That's all right. Pedram, are sunshine rituals just just morning people flexing?
I think it's very easy to pick one spectrum of the rainbow and say, this is my favorite. I think the full expression of light from morning to evening is healthy for exposure. And I think that getting exposure to, the red lights and the red shifted light and the blue light during the day, all yes, right? But I think the part that's missing in this light conversation that doesn't really go well with our society is, what about the absence of light? And I'm a big fan of dark retreat, dark therapy, get the damn lights out of the room, and also suppress the information, right? If you're just looking at like the eyeballs and the amount of the percentage of your neurology associated with processing information coming in through your eyeballs, there's just too much, right? You got to shut it down. You got to close Disneyland and sweep the park, right? And so we have way too much of our perceptual array processing information that, to me, dare I say, is usually less than relevant, because it's coming through a screen and it's what someone else wants me to see, and it doesn't necessarily feed my life's KPIs. And so I'm a big fan of a couple things. One is working on focusing and then defocusing peripheral vision, because it stimulates parasympathetic nervous system, and that is something that is the opposite of staring at your phone and looking through your feed. But I'm also a big fan of shutting the frickin' eyes and doing a fast of just light, just getting less and less light within that 24-hour period, and taking times where you sleep in more, or just mitigate the amount of exposure and offset that really fundamental imbalance that we're getting. We're getting too much sound, too much light, too much noise, too much information, and you wonder why everyone's nervous system is whacked out of place, and thinking that it's a deficiency of magnesium that fixes it. Yeah, the magnesium will help buffer it, Sure, I'm a big fan of magnesium when your nervous system has burned the damn thing down, right? But the question is, what's your burn rate? How much are you using your eyes? How much are you using your ears? How much are you exposing yourself to needless sensory input and not letting your brain rest?
Pedram, can you give us kind of a prescription? Because, when you say like, sleep in, this and that, like, how does somebody really, like, where do they start, and what kind of, path should they be taking? Because, there's the line of like, I'm going to sleep in every day and just be lazy, right? Versus, doing it once a week. So can you kind of fine tune it?
Yeah, and this is we're gonna tack out into dangerous territory here, right? I used to own sleep labs, and there's a whole thing called sleep science, and there's ways to look at someone's sleep and the stages of their sleep and understand specifically how to help them, right? So we could speak in very broad strokes here, and I'll go Taoist on this: is rest when you're tired, but move your fat ass. Right. And so rest when you're tired, but then move your body. Rest when you're tired, move your body. It's not about resting and storing calories for a rainy day. So if you're in the cortisol energy storage economy, you're tired, but you're tired because you're saving for a rainy day and you're stressed out. So you have to remediate the cortisol levels, the stress levels, and kind of bring up the metabolic rate again, but then always rest when tired. So I'm actually a fan of allowing people to nap. I'm a fan of saying 1 day a week, sleep in. I know the book says no, right? But getting you some time to recover and get your body the downtime it needs. Because look, a trip to Maui once every 6 months or something doesn't fix your life's problems, does it? Right. And so we have to find a cadence where we're giving our body the rest it needs. And it used to be this thing called weekends. And now it's like, well, this guy's got soccer and he's got baseball and she's got dance. And then we got a party tonight. And like everyone's so damn busy 7 days a week, whether it's work or social obligations, that lack of downtime, I think, is also just burning us up. And again, it's hard to make this a generic. I'm not a big like, here's my prescription thing, because everyone's individual and different, right?
Yeah.
But I would say rest when tired and allow your body the time it needs to catch its breath, and you will find that things start working out better for you.
So I have a two-part question to this. The first part is when you mention this absence from light, is it specifically sleeping and resting, or maybe go into a little bit more description of that?
Yeah. So one is there's a very ancient tradition of dark retreat where you literally subject yourself to nothing but darkness for 10 days. And really it does a lot of things to your pineal and your melatonin. There's some esoteric practices on the Taoist side and the Egyptian side. And there's all sorts of, kind of woo there that we can get into, but that,
Just to
that's out
clarify,
on a
you're
limb.
saying 24 hours of darkness
10
every
days of
day
darkness,
for 10
10
days
days.
straight.
Yes. Yes. No light.
Okay.
So there
You
are
don't go crazy from
practices.
that?
Yeah, you do. You hallucinate, but it's good for you, right? It's good for you. And so dark retreat is a known path. But stepping back into more of an urban, realistic lifestyle setting is just, black out your shades, get darkness, get all the lights out of your room, get the buzzing crap out of your room, and make your bedroom a safe cave so that your body can rest and feel safe and recover. But also, even if your eyes are not closed, I could stare at a tree with peripheral vision and just look out at a natural landscape and actually walk away healthier, happier, and better off. Staring at a screen, ingesting information, all those things I think are part of the problem. And I'll give you a case in point, a great example, because I've been around this community and I'm listening to Audible books at 3 times the speed because my stupid brain can handle it and all this kind of stuff. And I found myself one morning listening to some pretty complicated book on neuroscience at 3x the speed and getting pissed off at my dogs because they were tugging at me because they had to pee and they wanted to sniff over there. And I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And I had to just stop and pump the brakes and be like, oh my God, I can't even walk my dogs. And I like turned off the Audible, watched a beautiful sunrise, listened to the birds chirping, and hung out with my dogs. And they just both looked at me and were like, oh, thank you, you're back. right? So it's not just the eyes, it's the ears, it's all of it. It's just slow the fuck down and do the thing that you're
It's
doing when you're doing it.
well, even the monk has his days, right?
Guilty as charged, man. Listen, and I've been friends with Ben Greenfield and Dave Asprey for a dozen years plus, and I know all these guys. I've been around this block, and I will be like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And then I'll pressure test that against the reality of my own nervous system. And I'll be like, you know what, that didn't really work for me. Or, hey, that was really cool, right? This temple is also, the workshop. But I can just tell you that my body doesn't like trying to watch a sunrise while listening to a book at 3x the speed, it turns out.
So the second part of my question was, knowing when to rest, and you touched on something that actually I was experiencing, and when I first met Michael, I was all kinds of fucked up, and he's like, well, you need more sleep, you need this, that, and I'm like, dude, I wake up in the morning, I'm never tired, I run my whole day, everything works out, I live this perfect life, and I don't take naps during the day, and I sleep 4 or 5 hours, and I'm fine. And then he was like, dude, he's like, that's being screwed up. And, so I didn't even realize it, but I was still aware and being in this space. How do you get through to somebody that's like, well, I'm not tired and I don't need this stuff, and not in a stubborn way, in a way, because I was open to it and it changed my life. So what do you say about that?
It's kind of like you're in New York, right? When you're like running across, jaywalking
You
across
hear
the
the horns?
street. Yeah, I hear them. Right, it's always I've done a lot of my films in New York. It's very hard to get a good take. But you're running across the street, and then you get to the sidewalk, but for some reason you keep running because you have that momentum, and you're like, I could stop running now. There's no car hitting me. In Chinese medicine, we call that false heat. It comes from the kidney adrenal systems running at a burn rate that isn't healthy, and that false heat feels like energy, but it's actually your adrenals, your cortisol levels, potentially your adrenaline running the show. And it is it's an economy. Well, it's like the economy we live in. We keep printing money when we run out, right? It's not sustainable in that way. And so that, I mean, he probably saved your life, right? Because what happens is you feel that way because you're addicted to feeling that way, and the momentum is all you know. And that state that you can't even identify is much higher in anxiety than you would even know. And then a guy like you shows up in like some small town in Kentucky, and everyone's like, oh, he's from New York, right? Because everyone around you is running at that frequency, and because there's too many of you in the same room, you think that's normal, right? And so it's a completely different time signature because it's a frantic, panicked pace. And if your cortisol levels are too high, your pupils dilate, your blood vessels dilate, you're squeezing and running from the bear, and because that is the normal, you just think that that's your normal energetic self. Most of those folks need a really good nap, and when they wake up they go, holy shit, where have I been, right? And it could be a crash, it could, hopefully it's not. So I think, look, I had clinics in LA for years, right? That is the patient population. It is not healthy. It is not healthy. But it sounds almost trite and preachy as a monk to be like, well, you're right. And so you just got to help them feel their normal selves again, and then they could think clearly. They don't make panic decisions. They're not, it's you come back to yourself and you're like, holy shit, I thought this was me because everyone around me was also there.
Michael, you remember the question? You want to take a stab at it?
Well, yeah. So when it comes to sleep, right, there's the things that we do during the day, okay, are going to be just as impactful as the things that we do at night. Okay. And so what do I mean by that? Hydration, movement, and exercise. When it comes to hydration, most people don't think about this, but going to bed just slightly dehydrated can destroy your sleep quality as much as drinking coffee right before bedtime, right? There's been multiple studies that have found that adults getting only 6 hours of sleep had a staggering, up to 50, 60% higher risk of inadequate hydration compared to those sleeping for 8 hours. So even mild dehydration, it dramatically fragments sleep patterns, and it keeps the body in lighter sleep and less restorative sleep stages. And it's because deep sleep triggers release a hormone called vasopressin. It's a hormone that helps the body retain water overnight. And if sleep is cut short or fragmented, you miss your body's internal hydration cycle. And so this creates a vicious cycle of fatigue and dehydration. All right. So the key is strategic hydration, which means just consistently sipping fluid throughout the day. And you add electrolytes when you're exercising or sweating heavily. And you could try a pinch of salt in your water at night before bedtime. And that could, potentially reduce those nighttime wakenings to the bathroom. So hydration, it isn't just about water. It's probably the simplest and most overlooked secret for restful sleep. So that's number one. Number two would be movement or exercise. All right. And so this isn't just a healthy habit. It's literally probably the most powerful natural sleeping pill that there is. Research from Johns Hopkins found that regular exercise reduces insomnia symptoms by up to 65%, and it significantly outperforms most common sleep medications. Okay, it leads to faster sleep onset, dramatically deeper slow wave sleep, so delta sleep, and fewer awakenings at night. But here's the thing that most people overlook. Timing matters, okay? Meaning that vigorous, high-intensity workouts that are done within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime can actually sabotage your sleep. It spikes cortisol, interferes with the deep sleep phases, okay? So conversely, exercising in the morning, even for just 20 minutes, it not only helps you sleep better that night, but it also aligns your circadian rhythms, and it reduces the evening cortisol levels by up to 25%. So it primes your brain for, that optimal productivity all day long. But the bottom line is consistency is key. All right. So daily, moderate exercise, even simple movement breaks, all right, can literally transform your sleep and your mood and your performance overnight. The last thing would be preparation. All right. So that's the wind down. All right. Most adults think that what kind of Pedram was talking about earlier, they collapse into bed and just conk out. But EEG studies actually tell a completely different story. Without a wind down, a 30 to 60 minute wind down at night, the brain can stay trapped in those faster beta waves for up to 45, 60 minutes. And that delay robs you of the very first deep sleep cycle that repairs the body and mind. Every 10 minutes, this is a crazy stat, but every 10 minutes of interactive screen time in bed steals 9 minutes of total sleep time. So that means that if you doom scroll for a half hour, you've erased 27 minutes of shut-eye that night, okay? That's 5 to 7 full nights of deep sleep gone every month for that person. And it's because that late night light and mental stimulation that we're talking about, it flattens melatonin and it shifts your body clock by up to 3 hours, right? Which is the physiological equivalent of flying from New York to LA and back every week. Okay, so deep sleep, or that slow wave sleep, it only dominates the first half of the night. All right, so missing that window, there's no biohack, okay, that's going to get that back for you. All right, studies show that people who install that, simple 30 to 60 minute bedtime routine, meaning dimming the lights, reading paper pages, slow diaphragmatic breathing, it boosts that slow wave sleep and that next day alertness by over 20%. All right, so the bottom line is a wind down ritual. It's not a luxury. Okay, it's probably the single cheapest and most overlooked way to reclaim your health and performance. And the way that I like to think about it, or I like to talk about it with my patients, is the wind down's like a runway. Okay, so without it, your brain just keeps circling the airport. All right. So you want to give it that 30 minutes of dim light, resonant breathing, and zero screens, and you'll land in that deep sleep in record time, right? No pills required. So you're probably going to ask me next what that looks like. So here's my typical 45, 60-minute wind down routine. I break it into 3 different blocks. So the first block is called clearing the cortex. Okay, so during that time, you do your typical nighttime hygiene stuff, meaning that you, brush teeth, wash the face, whatever you do, prepare for the next day. So getting a bag ready or, getting lunch ready for the next day. And then do a brain dump by writing down thoughts or tasks that might stay, in the background and go to bed with you, which is going to result in lighter sleep. In fact, a recent sleep study found that people who hand wrote a specific to-do list for just 5 minutes fell asleep 9 minutes faster. Okay, so a 52% cut in sleep onset time compared to controls. All right, so it's potent. The second block now is in the bedroom, and I call it setting the biological stage, meaning biologically, as we were talking about earlier, we're not meant to be looking at screens or getting light stimulation into the eyes before bed. So turning off the lights, and if you need light, get a dim red night light. And second would be our body temp needs to drop 2 degrees for us to fall asleep and stay asleep. So turn the thermostat down to 66 to 70 degrees for most people. And most important, engage in some light, gentle stretching. All right. So nothing that gets your heart rate up, just gentle lengthening of the muscles. Okay. Studies show that this puts the brain into slower alpha waves and increases parasympathetic activity and increases HRV by about 10% within minutes. Okay. And so that primes the body for slow wave sleep. All right. And then the last block, I call it slide into delta, meaning that now you're in bed doing your resonant frequency breathing, which shifts the brain into slow theta wave states and increases the production of GABA. So you can enter into deep delta wave sleep within 10 to 15 minutes upon falling asleep. Okay, so not doing this, you pay a deep sleep tax. All right, but if you nail all 3, you reclaim an extra hour to 3 hours, right, depending on the person and how broken their sleep is, of that slow wave restorative sleep every week, right? So again, no gadgets, no pills, just physiology done the right way. And I'm going to guess that your next question is, what is resonant frequency breathing? Was I right or no?
Go ahead.
Can I go into that? Yeah.
Okay. yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So resonant frequency breathing is a breathing in a specific rhythm. It can drop your stress hormones and anxiety levels faster and more effectively than many prescription anxiety medications. All right. Probably sounds impossible, but clinical research has found this to be true. It's demonstrated that just 10 minutes of resonant frequency breathing reduces cortisol levels by up to 20%, increases heart rate variability, which is HRV, dramatically, and it significantly boosts GABA production. Okay, so that's the exact neurotransmitter that's targeted by anti-anxiety and insomnia medications. All right, in fact, EEG studies show that resonant frequency breathing, it rapidly shifts our brain from the chaotic, anxious beta waves into calm alpha and deeply restorative theta brainwave states. All right, so this isn't just a relaxation technique. It's biological hacking at its finest. And I personally witnessed patients who battled insomnia and racing thoughts for years finally achieve restful sleep and mental peace in days, okay, simply by syncing their breathing rhythm with their nervous system's resonant frequency. Okay, it's a powerful tool. And I've seen I've seen it help people relax their nervous system and calm their mind. So essentially what it looks like, you breathe at about 5 to 6 breaths per minute, typically inhaling for about 5 seconds, exhaling for 5 seconds to synchronize your heart rate, breath, and nervous system. And this rhythm triggers a phenomenon called cardiac coherence. Okay, optimizing the balance between your sympathetic, stressful nervous system and parasympathetic, rest, relax, feel at ease nervous system. Okay, and by hitting this frequency, your body rapidly enters a state of deep relaxation, reducing anxiety and priming you for restful sleep. So that's what resonant frequency breathing looks like.
Thank you. Pedram, do you have anything to add before we move on?
Just a couple things. Very thorough. Thank you for that, Michael. Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very inconvenient truth that I have to do stuff to sleep better, right? But those folks are the ones that sleep better, and those are the ones that are winning in life. If there was a anti-TikTok scrolling pill, everyone would be buying it. But none of that stuff works. This is the sage wisdom that does, and I appreciate the thorough explanation, Doc. A couple things I'd add, just notes that came up is the hydration. One thing that came up for me is the preponderance of folks listening to this that are somewhere either in or close to a pre-diabetic state, and how mismanaged blood sugar leads to excessive thirst. And if you find yourself very thirsty in the evenings, that is telling you something. So there's something to listen to there, not separate than what the doc was saying, but just a flag that came up for folks that I've found oftentimes have insomnia. It's also the bedfellow of very poor blood sugar management, and blood sugar management is energy management, and the powering down of your system to restore energy is a big part of that. And that's the squishy part, because you become aware of your inner state when the lights go out and everyone else shuts up and is sleeping. And so sleep is one of the places where people suffer the most, because that's the first time they could listen to their body all day. And I think that there's something to be said for that. I think there's a lot of some variants. The resonant breathing, lovely. Some people do better with 4-7-8. Some people do better with box breathing. I think the moral of the story is tune your nervous system and get out of the sympathetic overdrive and get yourself back into parasympathetic dominance. There is one piece to this that came up for me. And I came back from a trip in Portugal where, we were in Europe, and it's like, what, their gluten is better, their dairy is better, and, kind of went weapons free for a summer and drank wine and did the thing. And I came back with insomnia. And here I am, a monk, right, who owns sleep labs. Like, I know how to deal with this. And I'm just sitting there. And this is more of a case study to help understand the operating system, right? So here's a guy who's been in functional medicine and studied this stuff. And I'm sitting there in the middle of the night being like, oh my God, stop. I just got to sleep. Don't you know what I got going on tomorrow? Right. Which is how insomnia works.
Yeah.
And caught myself doing the thing that we do in Western medicine, which is when you hear a crying baby, you run in and you say, shut up. That's how Western medicine works. Instead of saying, what is it, baby? Why are you crying? And so I had to stop, downshift, and think to myself, okay, why is this dude who's normally healthy back from this trip? What did I do differently? What was different? And so I started digging into PubMed, because I was up, and really looking at some of the research on endotoxemia and how lipopolysaccharides can create these states of hyperarousal when the body doesn't feel safe, technically, your neuroceptive arrays. And so here I am giving myself a leaky gut, coming back and now having this LPS proliferate and climb the castle walls. And here's the problem is, I don't know about you, but my body doesn't actually speak English. It'll speak irritation. It'll speak anxiety. It'll speak fatigue. It'll speak insomnia.
Yeah.
So your body is trying to tell you something, and the best time to listen actually is at night, because it's when all the other noises go away and you become aware of things, right? And so for me, it led me down this rabbit hole of being like, oh my God, look at all this research on endotoxemia and the breaking of the gut barrier and the permeability, leading to things like insomnia, anxiety, mental health issues, and all of it. Because why? You have inflammatory cascades. Someone jumped the TSA line. Now everyone's stressed out, right? And that's happening at your gut barrier. And so between blood sugar management and gut barrier management, those are the only two things that I would add to contribute to what the good doctor said here is, look, sleep can be really squishy. And there's places where it's like, man, we're trying everything. We're trying to figure out what's wrong with this individual. But within all the things that were just said here, all these, broad strokes that can drill down pretty deep, you do this stuff, chances are you're sleeping way better, and chances are your life is way better because you're making better decisions. You have more energy. You feel like doing things like exercise, and things start working out for you when you're sleeping better.
Yeah.
Can you,
Awesome.
either one of you or both, clarify how many hours of sleep we need per night to be healthy?
Look, book says 6 to 8. I think it's very individual, and I think that I like to look at how much deep sleep folks are getting. I want to make sure they're getting enough REM sleep. Again, there's your Aura rings back, right? There's ways to track this. The easiest low tech solution is, do you wake up feeling fully rested and ready to go? I don't know very many adults that can say they do, right? But 6 to 8 is the general number. But again, I know people that need 9.5.
Yeah.
They just do.
But would you say
Yeah.
that person who needs 9.5 has some major issues that they're not contending with?
Listen, we all come in with different things, neurologically, epigenetically, genetically. I mean, I don't know what they came in with. I don't know what their childhood was like. I don't know if they, had SIBO in their 20s. Like, there are a million things that would contend with how your body needs to power down and restore itself. And so without judgment, it's like, okay, well, let's optimize everything we can optimize. And if you need less sleep after that, then great. And if you still need more sleep, then let's get it for you. Because to me, sleep's a non-negotiable part of it. Like, if you're not sleeping well, nothing I can do in a clinic is going to fix it.
And then you said you look at like deep sleep and REM and things like that. What kind of numbers are you looking for there?
Again, broad strokes, right? I'd like to see 90 minutes of deep sleep. I'd like to see 90 minutes of REM. It depends on what someone's telling me. Like, if someone's having issues processing their emotions, I want to see what their REM sleep is looking like. I want to see how long they are, I want to see their vagal tone. I want to see their heart rate variability numbers. So I have a hard time answering questions like that because it's very individualistic.
Mm-hmm. Michael, do you have anything you want to add?
It's really the same. There is the individual, right? There is no one size fits all approach when it comes to sleep or when it comes to anything health related, because we all have our own unique genetic makeup and biology, and so yeah, it's a tough one.
Okay. I wanted to move on to, I wanted to do the segment in the beginning just to get a foundation, and I forgot. So you're both MDs. You both grew up in this Western medicine world.
And
I feel
ND.
like
I'm an ND.
ND. I'm sorry.
ND. Yeah.
But you don't
And I
have
am an
like
OMD, so slightly different. Yeah, MDs have a very particular path. And I chose not to go that path because that's the path that has been sponsored by pharma and a lot of things. MDs there's very good MDs in the world, but that degree has also been kind of siphoned off into the business of medicine. And, the bright ones jump out and open their eyes, but I think that there's a lot of challenges in the MD space with being told how to think and how to practice. Yeah.
So can you describe what your specialization or like an OMD is so people understand, and why you chose that path, and how it differentiates and maybe it leads into what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, I was pre-med at UCLA. I was interning under a very prominent doctor who was just a miserable human. And when I asked him, just an unhappy guy. So I'm like looking down the barrel of living this guy's life going, well, I'm studying way too hard to earn my way into a sucky life. And I asked him what we could do for Miss Jones in room 3, and he basically looked at me straight in the eyes and said, "I don't think you understand what we're doing here. We're hoping she dies of natural causes before we kill her. We got nothing. This is a pain management context." But it was enough to flip me, and I then started studying Tai Chi and Qigong, and then I became the disciple of a Kung Fu master, and then came back and got my doctorate in Oriental medicine because it has all of the ancient wisdom. We learn the herbs, then we go look at the pharmacology. We learn enough pharmacology to know what the hell they're being prescribed, but we don't prescribe it. And it's all the same: anatomy, physiology, everything that you would learn about the human body, just a different operating system on how we treat and bring balance to it, instead of the hammer and anvil approach of saying, well, I'm just going to intercept this pathway with this drug and relieve the symptoms. It's really much more about root cause and bringing and restoring balance to the system. And I'll let Dr. Smith talk about naturopathy, because they have a slightly but importantly different approach, and I think that they work well together.
Yeah. Naturopathic medicine, my training is initially very similar to the MD training. But the major difference is first in the philosophy or the approach to medicine. It's really focused on identifying and understanding the underlying root cause or causes so that we can treat those and heal the person. Whereas Western medicine, MDs tend to focus on the symptomology and suppress those symptoms that come up. And then, of course, the other main difference is using natural modalities, trying to use natural therapies outside of just pharmacology, just outside of drugs and medications, to help support and encourage and move balance of physiology back into a restorative, healthy state.
Perfect. So at this point, I want to close this part of the interview out. And, this is kind of just like a fun question. If you had to delete one of the following from human existence, would it be supplements, medication, tech devices? What would it really be, and what would you focus on as the one thing you would use to keep homeostasis?
Can you say that one more time?
So you've had to get rid of something, let's say like supplements, meditation, tech devices, anything that you guys are using to help relieve people of symptoms. What would it be, and which one would you keep as being essential?
Gotcha. Go ahead, Doc.
I was hoping you'd go first on that one.
Well, I can. So which one would I throw away?
And which one would you keep?
And which one would I keep?
I mean, you can also have an answer like they're all part of, the ecosystem that you've created, and they're all essential. They're all equal in a sense.
I mean, I like having the tools. It's not that they're all essential. What is essential is a balanced nervous system, and then all of the other key foundations for health, which is nutrition and movement and hydration and sunlight, right? All those things. That's what's needed, right? That's what's required. The supplementation and the tech gadgets and everything else, it's more nice to haves, but we can get everything that we need from just those foundational pieces that I mentioned.
Perfect. That's it. That's kind of the answer I was looking for.
Yeah, mine would be in the same vein. Is it's like walking into my garage and saying, which one of the tools in this shed should I get rid of? And I could maybe say like that set of pliers. And then one day I might have actually needed that very thing that I chucked out. And so it's the reason you have everything in your toolbox. 100%. Like you don't know what you got, right? Cipro saved my life in Peru, right? And then I had to work on fixing my migrating motor complex because it, dropped a bomb in my GI tract.
Yeah.
And so we didn't understand that at the time, right? There's research that's come out saying, well, this is what triggers this and that. And so the right tools for the job at the right moment and use your best judgment in that moment. None
Yeah.
of the things that we've talked about here, I think, need to be dismissed. I just think that there needs to be a more thorough, comprehensive, bird's eye view look at how we do the things that we do. And the way the medical system currently works is just compartmentalization, and no one understands what the other guy just did, and everyone's just billing and trying to get home to their kid's soccer game too. And so there needs to be a much better way, and I think AI is going to help with some of that, but there needs to be a better, more thorough look at the whole human, drugs, light, mobility, and all.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
No.
No, I think at the end of this, I think the two of you are just doing two different flavors of something that's similar. In all honesty, that's what I got from this. You share a lot of the same, I think, philosophies. I think the techniques are different. I think maybe they stem from different approaches more than anything else. Do you both agree?
Yeah, I had no like, oh my god, I would never do that to anything Dr. Smith said, right? Like we have a little stylistic variance on things, but look, at the end of the day, I think everyone here is here to help, right? And for me, I hate wasting people's time, energy, and money. And I want to
Yeah.
cut to the chase as fast as I can. There's some great evidence based stuff that works, and then there's stuff that's anecdotal that maybe works. And so it really depends on where the patient is at and how desperate they are and how quickly we need to move based on the amount of pain and suffering they have. So it's life is squishy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we had a very similar philosophy, just different style.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I thank both of you for coming on, talking about this stuff. I think more than anything, we have more questions than even answers at this point, which I think is great. Time to dive a little bit deeper into these types of modalities more than anything else. I know I've worked with both of you, and I think both of you have really helped change my life. And I'm glad you guys are there.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah.
I want to switch over now to this quick question and answer. And I'll ask a question. You can both take it. One can take it. Doesn't really matter. These are like, some of them are like kind of fun. Like, one of my questions is about structured water. You guys want to go on that? So is structured water real or just woo-woo hydration with a markup?
Both.
Structured water. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
There
there's
you go.
people that are doing this structured water, like Emoto's work. There's some folks doing some structured water. I'm hearing a lot of anecdotal stuff. It sounds a little culty, and honestly, like it sounds a little MLM-y to me sometimes. Now, Emoto's work is great. I think water comes through in a structured fashion when it's running down a creek, anyways. And we do have problems in the way we transport water. Now, can these gadgets actually structure the water and make it good for us? I haven't seen the evidence, but I've heard a lot of anecdotal stuff. Whether that's placebo or market driven, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't have much of a take. I do.
Yeah, it's cool.
I have RO, adding nutrients and minerals back in, and a hydrogen machine. So yeah, that's what I do.
That's my next piece. So, do we actually need electrolytes, or is it just Gatorade in a lab coat?
we absolutely need electrolytes, and we could get them through our foods. We should be getting them from our water. Electrolytes are an absolutely essential, critical part to your health. And RO, unfortunately, the world we live in is just so filthy that I think RO is the best way to get clean water. But then, to Doc's point, you got to remineralize and bring some of the electrolytes back into the equation so that your body can properly ingest and assimilate that hydration.
Yeah. I would have said the exact same thing.
All right. If we drink water from a plastic bottle, are we doomed?
Continuously over a extended period of time, not doomed, but much more toxic, and that is obviously going to lead to disruptions in the biology and lead to symptoms, most likely. So yeah, not a good long-term solution.
Are we getting microplastics, or is there some other problem with it?
It's mostly going to be the plastics, which are disruptors to most of our organ systems, especially our endocrine system and our hormones. So, yeah, not a great long-term solution.
Can breathing or meditation replace the gym?
No.
Replace the gym?
No.
Yeah.
No. I think breathing brought into what you're doing at the gym can radically transform and capacitate your fitness routine and bring awareness and body awareness and all sorts of other things to your regimen. But I think you need to move your body and lift weights, do heavy things.
10,000 steps, legit or fitness folklore?
Frequency of movement, more important than some arbitrary number or intensity of movement for most people, meaning moving more throughout the day, right? That's what kind of the research has shown is more conducive for humans.
I want to ask a question on the importance of like breathing and meditation. I'm just thinking of how to do it. Um, so like something like, so I want to ask like, is meditation a scam, or, um, can we actually, like what are the benefits of breathing in a sense? And then, give me the, like either statistics or just something that really, you can bite your teeth into. You guys following me?
Not really.
No.
I mean, I could answer that in a trite way. Is what are the benefits of breathing? Is I could invite you to stop, see how that goes for you, right? Like the problem is,
Yeah,
we take it for granted,
Yeah.
and we don't realize it is. First of all, the olfactory system is the most ancient pathway. So our sense of smell, but breathing through the nose allows the nitric oxide producing bacteria on our tongues to proliferate and allows for our cardiovascular health to remain intact. Breathing point blank, without it, you're dead. You need the oxygen. Lower diaphragmatic breathing triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, tells your body to relax and it's safe. And becoming aware of your breathing is by far one of the most important anchors into consciousness and awareness, because try not breathing for 3 minutes. It is the easiest way to connect back to your body and your mortality, frankly. It really is the easiest trigger for any human to become better at self-awareness, in my assessment.
Yeah. Patients in my program, it is probably the most important thing. Well, maybe the second most important. If I had to rank them, it would be, a really high quality, optimal night's sleep, and then breathing practice.
So is breathing and meditating the same?
No, you're breathing right now, but there is a layer of awareness brought to your breathing that activates your anterior cingulate cortex and helps modulate your default mode network and allows you to become a self-aware creature. And that's the difference between us and the rodents running around. So there's something really powerful in our ability to become self-aware and have agency and make decisions. And the awareness of your breathing is the important part, right? You obviously need to breathe or you're going to die, but layering your awareness onto this thing that you take for granted and do all the time, that's why breathing and meditation are synonymous, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah. It's mindful breathing, right? Mindful breathing can be a form of meditation. Okay. And specifically the resonant frequency breathing or functional breathing that I was talking about earlier, that's what helps to kind of shut down the more activated, stimulated states of the midbrain, such as the amygdala, which is very kind of fear-based and hyper vigilant, hyper aware, kind of keeps us on edge, on guard, constantly problem solving, and turning that part of the brain off so that we can get up into the prefrontal cortex, which is where we have all our executive functioning. So all of those are going to improve my ability to focus and concentrate, and my memory and my decision making, my learning, right? All that stuff improves as a result. So you don't just increase oxygenation and blood flow up to the brain, but you also improve the interconnectivity of the neurons from the midbrain to the cortex. And so better functioning overall.
So in regards to red light, is red light a scam? Would our ancestors would be laughing at us for standing in front of some red light as opposed to just going outside and getting some sun?
When I was making my second film in Africa, I was shocked at the magnitude, the size of the sun on the horizon and how powerfully and potently red it was. And I started looking at some of the studies showing that it might very well have been the red shifted sun for our ancient ancestors that triggered the prefrontal cortex to proliferate and have the neurons of the prefrontal cortex advance us to this state of self-aware creatures. And that red shifted light has been studied for decades now, and it has very powerful effects on our neurology, our neurobiology, our mental health. Now, the question behind the question is, do I need to go buy some gadget or can I watch the sunrise? And I would say, well, listen, if you can have the luxury in life to not have to, shoot off the kids and fall into the whitewater of your day and sit there and smile at a sunrise and watch a sunset every day, you're winning. But for the rest of us who've got a lot going on, a good quality use of some red shifted light at the right times, I think could be important, especially in the evening, given the amount of blue light we're exposed to.
Yeah.
Sorry, you want to add to that, Michael?
No, that was great. I got nothing to add to it.
Okay. You mentioned blue light. I mean, is blue light like frying our soul, or is there something, else going on there?
Go
Don't
ahead,
you guys
Doc.
like blue light?
No, I was
Well,
waiting
it's
for Michael
necessary.
to.
It is something that we need. It's just that we're bombarded by it, right? It's like what Doc was talking about earlier. We're just getting too much of it, right? And so we're being overstimulated. And so, most humans need to go in the opposite direction, right? Less stimulation, more recovery, more rejuvenation. And so, yeah, not that I don't think that either of us would be totally against it because it is necessary, but we just get too much.
I think if I could add to that is, I think what you're asking is, maybe is the blue light operating system frying our soul? And I would tend to agree that our proclivity to need to produce and be up and drive the blue light mentality is
Yeah.
absolutely soul crushing. And we feel bored in a moment of silence on a subway. We feel like we got to look at our phones when we sit down waiting for our flight. That blue light mentality is what's permeating and creating the insanity. Yes. But blue light on its own, it's just a spectrum of light, right? Like, we need it,
Yeah.
and it's exactly what we need when we need it. I think we're just driving too hard.
Thanks for picking
Yeah.
up on that.
I like
Um,
that answer.
Melatonin, is it ruining our natural rhythm?
You mean the
Well,
supplementation of
Yeah,
melatonin?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the supplementation, because I feel like I see it on every shelf. Every time I talk to anybody, they're taking 5 or 10 grams of melatonin.
I mean, I got a
yeah.
quick answer. If Doc, if you're, I would ask you this: like, if you wake up with a hangover, is the Advil ruining your life or not? It's remediating the problem that you're trying to fix from the tequila the night before. Um, I think we're taking melatonin in a remedial way to balance poor sleep hygiene and bad energy economics.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's not treating the underlying issue, which is what we were talking about earlier, right? With the wind down and the foundations of health that you're doing during the day. Millions of people are popping melatonin probably each night, thinking that they're optimizing their sleep, but for many, it's wrecking their sleep in the long term, um, because the clinical evidence has shown that a lot of the over-the-counter melatonin supplements contain far more melatonin than what's stated on the label, like up to 500% more. And so that means you're unknowingly flooding your brain nightly with really high doses of this hormone that disrupt your natural circadian rhythm and can eventually lead to dependency and lead to worsening insomnia over time. So it's not this harmless sleep vitamin. It's a powerful hormone, and misuse, uh, can significantly reduce your body's own melatonin production, and that can create a reliance trap. If you're serious about long-term restful sleep, melatonin, it should be really the last resort. It shouldn't be your nightly go-to ritual. Um, it's a powerful hormone that regulates everything from immune health to metabolism to longevity, and so flooding your system on a nightly basis can disrupt that delicate balance and potentially speed up cellular aging, and damaging your sleep quality in the long run. So it's not, again, a good long-term solution.
So I've heard a lot about GABA. What is it? Does it work, or is it just another like placebo, or is it another like melatonin in disguise?
So GABA is it's a primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. Um, there's many prescription sleep aids that work by enhancing the effects of GABA in the brain. And it works by inducing relaxation and creating a sleep ready brain state, essentially. Um, but oral supplementation, unfortunately, does not cross the blood brain barrier very well. Um, so we have to use, really high doses to kind of encourage that winding down process of the brain and create that calming. But some studies have shown that it can reduce the time to fall asleep, and can increase time spent in non-REM sleep, so the light sleep and deep sleep.
Pedram, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think you could naturally modulate GABA with neurofeedback, meditation, mind body practices, and all sorts of things. So, the thing about,
Totally.
the question, does GABA work, is, well, GABA is part of us, right? It is a naturally
Yeah.
occurring part of our own neurobiology. And it is part of an intricate system of checks and balances. And
Mm.
so once we start supplementing something along those lines, we're taking really, really big kind of hammer and anvil kind of strokes at things that are much more nuanced, right? And so
Totally.
I'm reticent to just give folks GABA when I can actually try to fix their sleep. Now, listen, a lot of people come in far gone, right? And we have a lot of work to do to kind of bring them back to balance. And they've been on GABA, or they've tried this and they've tried everything. And that's the reality on the street. But I don't go to it in an early stage effort to fix sleep. I'd like to balance the body's inhibitory neurotransmitters through lifestyle means first.
100%.
Perfect. So, what supplement do you secretly think is garbage in the sleep world?
Um, Probably most of them. Like
Fair enough.
there's not anything that I'm going to give for sleep for most people. It's exactly what Doc just talked about, um, which is restoring the foundations of health and making sure that they have a good wind down routine that is preparing the brain for sleep.
I will answer this in context of medicine, though. I think Ambien's garbage. And I think that a lot of the stuff that our patients are being given by doctors who, again, have been trained by pharma are like, well, here, take this. And you look at their sleep quality, it just isn't there. So just because you are not aware of what happened last night doesn't mean you slept well. And the deep
Yeah.
sleep, the REM sleep, and it's just so, are you actually trying to get the benefits of what sleep does, or are you trying to not remember what happened? Right.
Yeah.
And it's some of these medicines really don't do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yes, that is 100% true.
Would you rather have 8 hours of sleep through your methods or 8 hours of sleep on drugs?
8 hours of sleep naturally, 100% of the time, without drugs, because like Doc was saying, with the drugs, it disrupts the sleep architecture. And so you're unconscious, but you're not uh, deeply rested. And so you're going to wake feeling that way.
And there are a lot of things happening, like detoxification of your glymphatic system. There are a lot of things happening while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So your conscious awareness might park up somewhere, but the brain is actively doing a job at night. It's
Mm-hmm.
clipping, trimming neurons. There are a lot of things that need to happen naturally during sleep, and the use of supplements or drugs to knock you out sometimes disrupts the natural flow of what's actually supposed to be happening. And
Yeah.
without the health benefits of sleep, you're not getting where you think you're getting. You're going to end up breaking. And so I think there's a huge conversation around that. I know we've danced around it.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, perfect. Can you really heal insomnia with breath work?
I think so. I think breath work is the pivot to neurological modulation and allowing us to have better access to better vagal tone and parasympathetic dominance. And I think that it also is the gateway to better self awareness, so that then you could become aware of the lifestyle habits or the dietary habits or the environmental triggers that may be contributing to it. But I've never had a person who committed to fixing their sleep that was willing to look under all the stones and rocks and figure out what it was. And it could have been mold in the room, it could have been a snoring spouse. But when you're committed to doing it and you fold your awareness into it and you commit to bringing down arousal, you're already 90% of the way there.
Yeah. I would just say that it depends on the cause of the insomnia, right? Um, Probably 80, 85, maybe plus percent of the time. Uh, can you fix sleep with breathing? Yes. But it's that other 10 to 15% um, that are um, other causes that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to be clear, the awareness that would capacitate digging on those other causes is a prerequisite to say maybe it's my blood sugar, maybe it's my hormones, maybe this, maybe that. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons people aren't sleeping at night.
Yeah.
So, which influencer is faking it the most, the spiritual ones or the biohackers?
Both. Um, I think there's a lot of untethered advice in both areas. I think Terence McKenna said it best: "Give me one free miracle, and I can explain anything." There's a lot of plagiarists. There's a lot of douchebags, and there's a lot of just unqualified people giving health advice. So if you're a 22-year-old dude giving hormonal advice to a 50-year-old woman, what are you doing if you haven't studied that stuff? And so I think the whole damn thing's wild, wild west.
Yeah, agreed. And it's a much more your world probably than mine. I'm really focused on my patients. I don't see a ton of social media, so but the ones that I am aware of, it's a lot of trash, and um, it's just very confusing. I feel like for people that are actually watching that stuff.
All right, so let's be honest here. Can each one of you survive a week doing the other guy's protocol?
Yeah,
Yeah, probably pretty similar.
yeah, yeah. We're not very far apart at all. And so I probably do 99% of his protocol already, right? I begin a good night's sleep the moment I wake up, right? It's how you run your day.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm pretty much done here. We have a few minutes. Anything you guys want to add to this, or any pieces that we didn't really cover well?
I don't think so. The only other thing that was on um, Christina's agenda was a morning routine.
Oh yes.
Um,
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad. I didn't even see her stuff, but I don't know why that I didn't have that on there because I had sleep and I must have missed morning. So yeah, please let's dive into that.
I don't really have a morning routine. It's not a one size fits all thing. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, okay, I can speak to it real quick. Um, I guess. Well, with that idea, um, I tend to just hyper personalize things, and so when it comes to morning routines and nighttime routines, I tend to think of chronotypes. So, not everyone fits into this 5 a.m. miracle morning routine, that works perfectly for, you know, these top level executives that wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. For another person that could ruin their health and tank their productivity and make them feel completely miserable. Um, the reason is your chronotype. It's your genetically determined internal clock, essentially. So, chronobiology research proves that not everyone's brain is wired to thrive um, at the exact same time. Right, up to 40% of the population are actually night owls. Enforcing a night owl into a 5 a.m. routine actually causes biochemical chaos, and that triggers cortisol spikes and more inflammation, and even long-term health risks, right, like obesity and diabetes. So, I've had many patients forcing themselves to into different rhythms, right? Um, you know, Waking at dawn because it's trendy, and you know, only to experience the fatigue and the brain fog and the anxiety and the declining performance that can come along with that. But by aligning your routine to your own personal chronotype, you can dramatically improve your mental clarity and productivity and reverse years of burnout symptoms in just mere weeks. So, chronotypes are not a theory, they're a fundamental biological reality. Your genes literally dictate when you should rise, work, exercise, sleep, for your optimal health and performance. So it's not a one size fits all morning routine. That's poor advice, in my opinion. Personalization should be the new clinical gold standard.
Now, I know this is a little bit of two general questions here, but I'm going to ask you anyway. One, how do we know that we're in that chronotype? Because, if I wake up and I'm tired, is it because I'm a night person or I'm getting bad sleep? And the second piece of it is what do you recommend to people that are in that, because we live in a 9 to 5 world, right? Where people are getting up at 5, 6 in the morning to get to work and things like that, or school. So what's the recommendation if you are that chronotype? How do you, navigate this world we're in?
It's tough, man. I mean, I've had people that, were working that overnight shift, that I had to write a letter for, like, they can't do this anymore, basically, right? Like, time to get a new job or get a new shift, because this is completely working against your biology, and it's leading to the current health state that you have, which is why your health's declining the way that it is. So yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, I guess the world needs drug dealers and prostitutes. I get it, right? So,
It's
and
a better
and
job for you. Yeah.
and then the other part of it is, how do you know that you are that chronotype? Like, what are the indicators?
Yeah, sure. I can go into that. So there are 4 major chronotypes. The first one are the morningness types, or what we call lions. Okay, so their natural sleep rhythm is they're very early to bed. So they're going to bed between 8 and 9 p.m. usually, and they are waking early, so between 4 to 6 a.m. And their peak productivity time is in the early morning, so like 6 a.m. to noon. So that's their kind of best focus time. Personality traits, they tend to be very proactive, they're organized, they're driven. And these are the 5 a.m. club type of people. Okay. These are also the type of people that are usually scheduled, like their schedules, like every line of it is dialed in. They tend to be exercisers, and they should, like, if you are this chronotype, focus on their work early, because that kind of maximizes their energy through the rest of the day. The second would be bears. These are the midday achievers. This is the majority of the population, so 50-ish% of the population. So their sleep rhythms most naturally aligned closely to our sun, the solar cycle, and so they're in bed between 10 to 11:30, and they wake sometime between 6 to 8 a.m. And their peak productivity is mid-morning to early afternoon, so like 10 a.m. to 3 usually. And as far as personality, they tend to be social, dependable, but they're prone to these kind of afternoon energy slumps. They tend to thrive with these consistent balance schedules, like consistency and routines. They tend to do best with that. But like the intensive work or tasks before lunch, anything that's transactional, like lighter activity or tasks, post lunch. Wolves, they're the third ones. So these are the night owls. Okay, these are the people that are going to bed late, midnight to 2 or 3 a.m. They're much later to rise because of that. So they're getting up like 8 to 10 a.m. Or before noon, some people. Peak productivity late afternoon, evening. So like 4 to 10 p.m. is when they're at their best. These people tend to be the creatives. Okay, so, but they struggle obviously with any morning obligations or scheduling. And then the last one are what's called dolphins. These are the people that are really light sleepers or insomniacs. Their sleep rhythm is very irregular and disturbed. They have difficulty maintaining deep, restful sleep. Their productivity is very sporadic. It could be late morning or late afternoon, but they tend to be these intelligent perfectionists that are kind of sensitive to environmental stimuli, so that they can just be a little overly sensitive or anxious in circumstances.
Is there any possibility to switch, or are we set in these ways?
Yeah. So I mean, you change chronotypes throughout the life cycle, right? So what you are as an infant, you will likely not be as an adolescent, and what you are as an adolescent, you will not be as an adult, and what you are as an adult, you will not be as an elderly person. So yeah, it changes throughout the life cycle.
Sounds exciting. Pedram, what can you add to this?
We did a pretty thorough run through of this. What I would add to the morning routine, agreeing that we're all different and you got to do what you got to do based on your own burn rate, is I do like to instill in all types of the chronotypes a little bit of you time in the still water of the day before it becomes white water, to fold into your priorities for how you want your day to go, what your goals for your fitness are, what your goals for your day are. Just a little bit of a check-in. It's very easy to wake up and start stumbling and tumbling into society's demands of you. And I feel that a little bit, and this could be different, right? Like I do moving meditation, qigong. If I were to get up and get on a meditation cushion, it would just extend my sleep. I get up, I got to move my body a little bit, but I'm not doing burpees. Yeah. But some people need to journal. And so depending on what you need for you, and it could be, and then I'll go walk the dogs, and that's still quiet time. My brain is still kind of booting up. But I find that is an important and relevant daily ritual for most people, so that they can set the tone of awareness and anchor their day on some dedicated acts of self-love. It's very easy to wake up one day and be 10 years older and say, what happened? Wow. And that's all I really have to add to that. I mean, you guys did a pretty thorough deal on this.
Do you have a specific morning routine? I know, Michael, you said you're not you don't have a routine itself, but like something that you do on a regular basis that you feel has really like added to your life.
Sorry, just to clarify, I have my own routine that I do.
Yeah.
So okay. I don't have like a set one that I do for every patient. It's personalized for them.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, what do you guys specifically do, just so that we can get an insight into genius? Because I spoke to somebody a few weeks ago, and he's like, my morning routine starts with when I go to bed, because whatever time I have to wake up is how I set it, and so I'm starting the night before, and then kind of going. Pedram, you said your sleep starts in the morning, right? So I think these are important ways that people can wrap their head around this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think.
So
listen, I think
it's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I do like I like cooking my own meals. I don't have a chef. So I like doing that at night, my lunch for the next day. And so not that that's part of my, that is part of my night. I wouldn't say it's part of my nighttime routine. That wind down routine that I talked about earlier is. But as far as my morning and what that looks like, usually it's wake at 6. And I personally, like Doc said, I like to move first thing in the morning. So that's when I do my movement and exercise. And then I eat breakfast. And then after that, I'm doing some breath work and journaling. And then I get started with my workday.
Any fasting involved in that at all?
Fasting?
Yeah.
No fasting. I tried to finish my meals by 5 to 6 p.m. so that after that I'm fasting in the evening. I don't fast in the morning.
Pedram?
Yeah, I've tried to beat myself up and say I got to, get on a squat rack at 4 a.m, and it just didn't work for me. To Michael's point, for me, I think to the point that you made before going into this is it's kind of the circle of the yin and yang, right? Is I am also preparing for my morning the night before, the ritual of the moon, if you will. I'm clearing my mind of all the open windows so I could have a good night's sleep, and tell myself what I need to get to the next day, and letting it go to letting it go down so I don't worry about it and fuss about it all night. But then I wake up 5:30 to 6. Alarm goes off at 5:30. I'll give myself a little cushion depending on the morning. Try not to. I will do qigong. I will rotate I have, I don't know, 190 different qigong sets that I have learned in my life, and if I don't do them, I'll forget them all, right? And so I will do and qigong is the active eyes, mind, body, and breath. You're watching your hands. You're doing breath work, so it's mind, body work. And then I will meditate for 15 minutes. And at that point, the dog's got a hold of me, right? It's like, I got kids and dogs, and my wife's up. And so that's it. That's all this guy gets is that time in the morning. And then I'll feed the dogs, take them to the park. And then again, a little bit of quiet time walking. Used to be listening to a book. I stopped that. Just listening to the birds chirping and the sun coming up, and then coming back to Lord knows what kind of pandemonium the kids are fighting, or where's my sock, or and I'm in the whitewater already. And what they deserve is a calm dad who fed his own meter before he steps back into that breakfast area, right? And then I'll do some I'll bookend the day with some meditation, and all the red light and shifted practice in the evening. But again, these feed into each other, so it's very hard for me to talk about a morning routine without talking about a night routine, because they would just leapfrog into each other. So separating those, I think, creates a problem.
Now, in regards to diet, fasting, cutoff points, I know this because I've worked with Michael in the past. He cuts off caffeine and meals and a few hours before bedtime. Are you fasting at all? Are you doing that type of routine as well with, not eating or caffeinating?
Yeah, I mean, look, I try to be done by 6 or 7 in the evening. Social life sometimes doesn't allow for that. You go to dinners and the stuff, right? Kids and sports and all the crap. But I try to be done by then. In general, unless I've come back for some trip and gotten fat and really need to, fast some more, then I would just do black coffee and have my first meal around noon. But in general, I am an advocate for protein, and getting enough, at least 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, and more if you're working out and doing the thing, which means if I'm a 200-pound guy and I'm, trying to get somewhere, I need at least 180, 200 pounds of grams of protein on board, which means if I'm not getting close to 60 sometime in the morning, it's really hard to get those numbers if you don't start early. And breakfast is the best time to power up and do it and burn it and all of it. And so, for me, I think you're starting behind and all this like fasting talk and all this biohacking shit that's out there. I think they're not taking into account the fact that people are auto digesting and eating their own muscles and killing their own longevity. And that's the deep,
Yeah.
dark secret behind bad advice being given out there is I don't think anyone's eating enough protein.
Yeah. 100%.
Stop agreeing.
I know we were supposed to fight.
He did this last time too. No, so I think it's funny that you say that because I've tried all these different things, and when I first started fasting, I was like gaining weight, and I know you're doing it wrong. Then I was fasting later on in the evening, or I think and then I switched to the morning, and then I started like losing muscle in my face, and things like that. So I personally noticed it, and I think all in the hopes of lengthening those telomeres and living longer. And then I had Dave Asprey on the show last year, and he's like, I'm eating, I don't know, like massive amounts of protein, like 60, 100 grams at a time. And he's taking an enzyme to help process the protein because, I guess the body can only do 20 to 30 grams at a clip. And I feel that the two of you are bringing everything back to like basics and back to humanity and how we've evolved, which makes a lot of sense to me. Go ahead.
Listen, we're doctors. And as doctors, it's our job to keep people healthy, not get them into a bikini contest, right? And so there are different strokes for different folks. There's a lot of ways to do things for short-term gains. But if I'm trying to, have you know your great-grandchildren, then the advice I give you is probably tempered by, that. I want you to stay healthy for the marathon, and I don't recommend running marathons. So I listen, and Dave's a good friend of mine. We go way back, but there's some ridiculous shit the guy does, and he can get away with it because he can afford a gajillion interventions and therapies to do it. But I know plenty of guys that put chicken in blenders. It's gross. It's very hard. It's very hard to have that kind of lifestyle and keep it up longer than 3 weeks. And so for me, that's a non-starter because life's a marathon.
Well said.
So I wanted to touch on one thing that, being the monk and the Qigong master, we didn't talk about that much. So can we have a little clip on that? What is it? Why is it? What is it like in addition to or supplemental? Do I still need other modalities like walking and weight training or gym or things like that? Just, give us kind of the universe of it.
So I stumbled into Qigong because I was like, what the heck is that? It looked like some Jedi stuff the guys were doing, and just tried it because I'm open-minded and was like, whoa, what was that? The experience of that. I don't need to believe in it. I experienced it. And the literal translation is energy work. And it's the focused breath with body movement. So eyes, mind, body, and breath coordinated becomes an energy yoga that corrals your attention and moves, between the hemispheres of your body, watching the hands and focusing your breath. And there's a variety of different kinds of Qigong, and they all do different things. Does it take the place of walking? Of course not. But I'm doing Qigong while walking. So it becomes an operating system of understanding where you are in your body, where your breath is, how you're moving, how you're flowing, and how things are in that moment, because that moment will change. And so I love Qigong. I don't recommend it to everybody. To me, it really suits my disposition. I've done plenty of yoga. I was in India for 6 months. Yeah, it's nice. My body likes Qigong better. So for everyone who is curious, I say just try it. Look, and if you're like, holy shit, that's my jam, then you keep doing Qigong, right? But I'm not a one size fits all kind of guy. Qigong is my jam, right? And whether or not it's yours, I would say try it first. If you like it, keep doing it.